Have you ever noticed this about Piccolo in Dragon Ball Z? Seriously, it's something to think about because it really is interesting, and we really do love diving into the lore of Dragon Ball on this channel, so stick around if you love that stuff and want more. Why didn't Piccolo or Kami get stronger or change when the other did throughout Dragon Ball and Z? What we know is that the Nameless Namekian removed the evil within him to create King Piccolo. Technically they split, but the good inside the Nameless Namekian became the Kami of Earth. It's not like Vegeta where the fusion is a different character. The Nameless Namekian simply purged himself. In this video, we look at the examples in OG Dragon Ball and Z to establish what the connection between Piccolo and Kami means in terms of their power level, and why they are unaffected by power and age changes despite one dying takes away the other's life force energy. And I know you'll enjoy this one, so do me one favor guys, push the likes to 1,000 for me. Now throughout the original Dragon Ball, particularly the 22nd and 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai arcs, King Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. were a center focus of opposition to Goku, but something interesting happened during the King Piccolo arc. Piccolo wished to restore his youth and return to his prime. In that same arc, we also see King Piccolo laying eggs, which affects his life force and ages him each time. But what effect did this have on Kami at the time? There are some that argue that in the King Piccolo arc, Kami's lifespan was significantly shortened by King Piccolo laying so many eggs. But we'll address all of that with the facts right here now. When it comes to Kami, we first see him very old, and we know he didn't lay any eggs. When King Piccolo did that, it really didn't accelerate Kami's age like some think. And Kami didn't just become old when he split with the evil part years ago. Let's look at their lifespans. When it comes to a Namekian's lifespan, we do have an indication of how long they live. Namek's cataclysm happened in age 261. The Nameless Namekian was a child back then, and in age 753, 500 years later, we first see Kami looking really old. We know Dende grows from very small to taller than Mr. Popo in 7 years. When we saw flashbacks of the Nameless Namekian, he was somewhere in the middle of their height, so their lifespan is about 500 to 600 years in my opinion. Different clans have different lifespans, and in Dragon Ball Daima, Pansy states the average lifespan of a demon in the third world is about 1,000 years. So Namekians are kind of at the bottom of the ladder, the lower threshold of age, and it's possible Namekians lost some of their average lifespan after millions of years in the living world after escaping the demon world. Some seem to think that King Piccolo's wish for his youth was actually about regaining his former physical strength, not his lifespan. They think that's why Kami stayed old. But this is false because it actually states King Piccolo wished for his youth and physical prime. This didn't affect Kami's age at all. Now if they are both linked in life force, and King Piccolo's life force was extended, and even returning his health to his physical prime, why wasn't Kami any younger? Why didn't his life force change or his power in general? First of all, we can address the fact that King Piccolo didn't really gain any extra power after the wish. He just became younger and his body was in better shape to use his power consistently. Whereas when he was old, he would still flatten Goku. He would choose his fights more wisely when his body was ready to use that power. It's not a myth that the last thing a boxer loses as he gets older is his punching power. It's just he can't use it as often. But King Piccolo can reach his maximum power by shortening his own lifespan, which isn't a controversial power method we used to see in these days. The whole thing when it comes to King Piccolo losing life after giving birth or going full power may have something to do with his demonic arts. Like he's doing something with his magic to make himself stronger than he normally could, but sacrificing his own life force to do it. As well as sacrificing some of himself to make demonic children who are not just typical Namekians, they are slaves who will obey his every command. He could feel exactly when they got killed because he's connected his life force to them in some way, like a branch on a tree. But if you cut off the branch, it's not the main trunk. Now it's obvious Kami and King Piccolo don't share physical bodies, so that explains why Kami still had wrinkles when King Piccolo was younger. But they do share the life force, yet it comes with a twist. It only affects the other if the life force is about to be fully diminished. As seen when Piccolo Jr. sacrificed himself against Nappa, he was still alive talking to Gohan, but Kami was suffering elsewhere because Piccolo was about to die. We also see it in the Garlic Jr. saga in the anime too, where Kami's life force is being tampered with by those crazy gods underneath the lookout, messing up with Piccolo in his fight on the lookout against Garlic Jr. However, if Piccolo's fighting, Kami isn't in physical pain. He doesn't feel the same punches, but he does suffer from the life force leaving him. Now it has to be real close to death, and I mean death imminent, otherwise Kami remains and doesn't feel a thing. Even if Piccolo has a death beam through his chest lying unconscious on planet Namek, Kami was fine, whereas against Nappa, death was coming fast and Kami could really feel it. Linking back to King Piccolo and him creating Piccolo Jr., that egg was very special because King Piccolo put everything of his life force into that egg, basically creating a copy of himself. Whereas if Goku's punch wasn't going to kill him, that egg definitely would have, because he transferred everything into it. So that's why Piccolo Jr. is basically King Piccolo. And it proves there's different levels of eggs to create. But now let's talk about Piccolo's training and him improving his energy, yet Kami's energy remains the same. Now, life force is an interesting concept, but it does link to ki, that being 1/3 of a person's total ki. It's officially stated by Akira Toriyama that ki is made up of mindfulness, health, and courage. It's literally mind, body, and spirit, where if you take the spirit bomb, for example, characters give up their genki, which is their life force, to the spirit bomb. It's the physical part of the ki, the vigor, the health part. They don't give their courage or right-mindedness to the spirit bomb. Now, when you consider this, if they share the life force part of the ki, why doesn't Kami's vigor part of the ki get stronger when Piccolo gets insanely stronger during Dragon Ball Z training, particularly training for the Saiyans, training with King Kai, and even fusing with Nail? Of course, Piccolo's total ki increases in all 3 areas, so his health part of the ki definitely increased over time. Basically, Piccolo and Kami's life energy is linked, but when the nameless Namekian's life force was split, they became different in their own way. The best way is to compare it to an apple tree. The life force is the tree, but there's a big branch which grows 2 apples. One fruit on the branch may be huge, juicy, always grows well, but the other part of the branch, the apples don't grow as big or juicy. In this case, Piccolo's got better apples than Kami, but if someone cuts the main branch, both apples suffer. If you could make a better comparison, tell me in the comments, I'd love to hear, but I think you know where I'm coming from. Basically, it's only when their life force is actually disappearing that the other is affected. Otherwise, they live separate lives as 2 separate people until it happens. Even though they share the same life force, the soul is still split, like 2 halves of a whole soul that can't live without the other. And that's backed up by the fact Kami was actually there at King Yama's after Piccolo was killed by Nappa. They both went there, but Kami refused to travel Snake Way, so I guess the souls are separate but still linked. Almost like a curse. Now, in the Android Saga, when Piccolo finally merges back with Kami, it's almost similar to Namekian fusion that Piccolo uses with Nail, but not exact. Yes, Piccolo took Nail's life force and permanently merged it with his own, but they weren't always originally one, whereas the nameless Namekian's life force was a 50-50 split at the time, so when re-merging, the power-up essentially comes from doubling their life force. Not because Kami's power level of around 200 is much of a difference at that point in the Android Saga, it's just hard to equate life force to power levels. But we know by using even a bit of life force to fight, characters like Tien can even hold back Semi-Perfect Cell, despite the power level difference. Life force is that deadly, so double life force really is a huge deal, as Piccolo could then square off against Android 17, and we know not even 10 Piccolos pre-Kami could take on Android 17 in the Android Saga, so double life force doesn't equal double power level. Like, think of Moro. He doesn't immediately get stronger than Goku and Vegeta after absorbing all their energy because he was absorbing Genki, the health part of Goku and Vegeta's ki, not the total package ki that they can create with all 3 components of ki. Moro doesn't absorb courage ki. And that's it for Piccolo and Kami's connection. It literally is that, a connection, 2 different lights on a circuit board, but both requiring power or life in order for the other one to stay alive. But you can simply swap the bulb for a stronger bulb to signify one gets stronger if you want to. Actually, that's a better comparison than the tree one. Until we meet again.